Are you ready to boost your confidence when selling so you're able to close more deals? Nikki Roush will show you how to build a foundation of skills and a mindset that creates sales success without feeling pushy or salesy and without fear of rejection. She is a sales strategist and coach with more than 25 years of sales experience and is master certified in neuro-linguistic programming. This is a radically different approach to selling. It's a no sleaze, no slime, and no stress approach to building your business. This is Sales Maven. Here's Nikki.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to the Sales Maven Show. I'm your host, Nikki Roush, your own personal sales maven, here to offer you tips, techniques, and strategies to master that sales conversation. In today's episode, we are going to talk about why you should charge for your expertise, not time. This is something that clients bring up to me all the time. They're trying to figure out how can you shift from charging from, hourly to having a package. And it's a conversation that I have over and over again with people. And I love to share a story that I learned years ago from my neuro-linguistic programming teacher. I've heard her tell it many times. And from the very first time she told it to me or shared it with us in the class, it has just really stuck. And so when I'm thinking about pricing, when I'm thinking about what I'm going to charge for things, I often remember this story. It's called the red-handled wrench. So I'm going to share it with you now. I actually shared it in a blog that I wrote years ago, and the story has been shared many times over, and people often tell the story back to me. They don't always get the name of it right, which is totally irrelevant, but it always makes me laugh when people come up with their own name for the story. The way that I heard it, it was called the red-handled wrench, okay? And the story goes, years ago, there was a ship that was just about to set sail for a cruise. And, thousands of people were on board. They were standing out, doing the thing. If you've ever taken a cruise, standing out and waving, to the people, getting ready, all the fanfare that goes into when a ship is about to sail out. And, the captain goes to, start the engines, and nothing. The engines don't start. So now, they're sending the crew down to the engine room to try to troubleshoot, to figure it out. People are starting to kind of get anxious, like what's going on? And they're trying to calm the passengers, like everything's okay, we'll be leaving shortly, And the crew cannot figure out why the engine won't start. And it just so happened that this particular cruise ship for many years had one particular engineer that was like the master of the engine. But he had retired years ago. He was no longer on board. So the captain, told the guy in the crew that was in charge of the engine, reach out to this old engineer, see if he'll come down here and, troubleshoot this and figure out what's going on. We've got to get this, ship started. We got to get out to sea. This could, we could potentially lose hundreds of thousands of dollars if we don't get this ship sailing. So they got a hold of this old engineer, and he agreed to come down. So as he's walking onto the ship, the crew's waiting for him. And as he walks onto the ship, he's not carrying a toolbox or anything. He's dressed just kind of like he always dressed. And he has this little red-handled wrench in his front shirt pocket. That's the only thing he has with him. So the crew's starting to get a little nervous, what's he going to possibly do? He doesn't have a toolbox, but they're anxious. The captain's calling. They've got to get something done. So they take him down to the engine room, and they and they say, do your thing, whatever it takes. We just need to get this. We just need to get it fixed so we can get going. So the old engineer, he walks slowly around, and at times he'll press his ear close to parts of the engine and listen a little bit, and then move around a little bit and, listen some more. And then at some point, after about 5 minutes of this, the old engineer, he takes out the red-handled wrench from his pocket, and he taps 3 times on a particular part of the engine. He goes tap, tap, tap. And then he turns to the crew and he informs them the engine is ready to start. Go ahead and radio up to the captain and ask him to start the ship. So the crew, of course, is a little bit shocked and a little bit nervous because, the captain is kind of frantic at this point. But they radio up to start the engine, and to everybody's surprise, except for the old engineer, the ship starts. So they take the old engineer back up, to walk him off the ship. And as he's just about to, get on the, I don't know what it's called, the little, is it the gangplank that walks you across, down to the dock? He pulls out an invoice from his back pocket. It's folded up, and he pulls out this invoice and he says, "Here's my invoice." And he hands it to the crew, and they're like, okay, yeah, fine. And, he goes on his merry way. The ship goes out to sea. Days later, the captain, is in his quarters, and he's reviewing all the outstanding invoices. And he comes across this folded up invoice, and he opens it. And from this old engineer, it says $13,000. Now, the captain, it's been days. They're out to sea. He doesn't quite remember how frantic he was to get the ship started. And now he's starting to question this price, this $13,000. So he decides he's going to be kind of clever because he's thinking, it only took this guy 5 minutes and one little red-handled wrench to fix this problem. Like, how could it possibly cost this much? So the captain decides to send an email to the old engineer, and he asks for him to itemize his bill because he feels like there's just no way he can justify this price of $13,000. Within a few minutes, he gets the little ding that he's got an email, and here's a response from the old engineer. It says, "Item number 1, red-handled wrench, $5. Item number 2, knowing where to tap, $12,995. Total invoice, $13,000. And that's the story of the red-handled wrench. So when you're thinking about charging for time versus expertise, is that really what you should be doing? Because really, people don't want to pay for your time. They want to pay for you to solve a problem, fix a need, give them the want. So when you're thinking about charging, it's really important that you pay attention to what are the things that you do. What are the results that you give clients? And you need to be pricing yourself accordingly. This is why you charge for your expertise. If you can solve somebody's problem that they've had for 10 years and you can solve it in 5 minutes, does that mean you should be paid less than somebody who might take 2 weeks to solve it or 6 weeks to solve it? So think about your expertise. And how are you positioning it in the market? Are you always talking about the amount of time clients get with you? Or are you talking about the results when you're writing up your sales pages, when you're putting offers out into the market? A lot of times we forget to focus on the results, and we spend a lot of time talking about all the things you're going to get that involve time. I struggle with this as well. There are so many times where I have to go back and go, where are the results here? Where are the results in the offer? People have to know what they're going to get. They don't just want to pay for time. Now, you may be thinking, yeah, Nikki, but I have to charge for hourly based on my business. Fine. That might be true for you. Many people, that is not the case. There is a way to put offers together that isn't just about time. And as a matter of fact, when you can really start to sell results, people don't really care about how much time you spend. I have a client right now who she is in the Sales Maven Society, and she does regular strategy sessions with me as well. And we can get, a strategy session with me is 50 minutes. That's what you get. That's the time that you get. And I'm going to pour as much into those 50 minutes and into the person that I work with as possible. And oftentimes we get to about 20 minutes in and she's like, okay, that's exactly what I needed from you today. I'm good. And I go, okay, this was awesome. Loved working with you. See you again next month, right? Because she really understands this idea of expertise. She shows up, she gets what she needs, and she goes about her merry way to go implement into her business and make money. I'll be featuring her soon on a success story on the podcast. And I'll reference this just so you know. She's amazing, this woman. She's an absolute superstar. But she understands the value of her own time. And she's not going to just sit there and go like, well, I just want to sit on a call with Nikki. She's like, nope, I got what I needed. I'm done. I'm moving on. I love that. Now, if you want to hire me for a strategy session, you're certainly going to get your full amount with me if you choose, right? But for her, that's all she needs. So when you're thinking about your pricing, there will be people who will push back, right? But it's so important that you really pay attention to what you're delivering to your clients. And if you haven't asked clients recently, like what are some of the biggest, like I ask this at the end of just about anything that I teach or do, what were your biggest takeaways for today? And then people will start to talk about all that they got out of the time with me. That's a really great source of information. One, because it validates them and the amount of money and time that they spent with me and how useful it was. But also it gives me some insight or what are the things that people are really looking for as far as results. And a lot of times I'll take those takeaways and those are what I will share in my sales page, in my offers, is this is what you can expect to receive from this offer. I had somebody reach out to me not too long ago who was asking about me helping them with a certain aspect of their business, sales related. And, whether or not I felt like my expertise was a good fit, it absolutely was a good fit for what it was that she was asking. And then she asked, how much is it to do a strategy session with you? So I sent her back the price. I sent her the link, offered her the opportunity to schedule it. And she came back with like, wow, congratulations that you're able to charge that much. And then I never heard from her again. I took it as a little bit of a CompuSalt. Do you know that term? My sister-in-law always says it. It's like, it sounds like a compliment, but not sure if it is. And I was like, okay, well, obviously she doesn't value. I didn't do a good enough job explaining how I could serve her, or she just doesn't see the value in spending that amount of money to get her questions answered, which is totally her right. That's okay. But I can't get caught up and set my pricing based on one person having a CompuSalt type response to me. I set my pricing based on the results that my clients share that they give, because my expertise allows for people to make money. That's one of the things I'm really proud of. And I can state with 100% confidence, the stuff that I share makes people money. They get a return on their investment. As a matter of fact, I just had somebody post this. I think this was last week posted I didn't ask for this. This person reached out and she shared in a group. She said, I just watched and listened to a Zoom strategy session with Nikki a couple weeks ago, and I'm blown away about how much insight and value she provided in that session. So she went back and watched it. It's one of the things I allow people to do is they can record their strategy sessions with me. So she went back and watched it a couple weeks later and she was like, wow, I was blown away by this. And then she talks about how she took notes, how she rewatching it was so helpful, that it gave her a list of action items that she set up to, finish this year strong, that she's got her roadmap of how she's going to focus on sales in 2021 for her business goals. And then she says, if you haven't booked a strategy session with Nikki this year, what are you waiting for? Like there's nothing better than having somebody share that type of response from time that they have with you. But the thing about this as flattered and as appreciative as I am about somebody sharing this, these are the kind of results my clients get all the time. They often say like, oh, I refer back to this thing that you taught me, last year, and I've used it over and over again in my process. It's helped me close sales, or, my close rate has increased. Like, this is the kind of stuff. So when I'm setting my pricing, I really pay attention to what am I going to bring to the table and what is it going to do for this person? What's the result? Because it isn't about the time. And as a matter of fact, when I work with corporate teams, when they hire me to do sales trainings, they often ask me what my hourly rate is, but I don't offer an hourly rate for corporate trainings. What I do is I break all of my stuff into training modules, and I offer them a list of modules. And then, of course, I'll recommend what the modules are that I think are a good fit for their team, and I give them some options. And they're like, well, how much is this going to be if we run over on time? And I always say, you're actually not paying for my time. What you're paying for is the module, the content that I'm going to teach, and the discussion that we're going to have in the room so that your people can implement what I'm teaching them. That's what I charge for. And my price is based on that. And so I'm not caught up in, am I spending an hour or am I spending an hour and 45 minutes with people? Now, for the sake of their schedule, we do work it in, like they tell me how much time that it needs to be completed by, but I don't feel bad if I complete it early, and I don't run over, right, to honor their schedule. But at the same time, if they say, we'll give you 2 hours, oftentimes I'm happy to have the 2 hours with their team so that they can implement the things that I'm teaching. So I have a little exercise for you today, if you're willing. I'm hoping that this is sparking something for you. It's making you think like, are you charging because you know where to tap, or are you just doing everything based on time? Okay. So here's the exercise. I give this to some of my VIP clients when they're struggling with pricing and how much to charge and the self-worth piece. I ask them, take like 5 minutes, and I want you to write down what you've invested in your time since you've been building on your expertise for whatever your expertise is. I want you to write down the amount of money that you've invested to learn these skills. And then I want you to evaluate your pricing. I did this just before I recorded this episode. I was looking at something in particular which had to do with my NLP training, because that's one of the things that makes me the type of sales coach that I am, because I bring this level of expertise that is outside of just a standard sales like experience. I bring all my sales experience, but I bring all this NLP experience as well. And between my NLP experience and what I've invested to grow my own business in the last 7 years, it's over $75,000. So when I'm thinking about charging, I don't feel bad about what I charge for a strategy session. And as a matter of fact, I understand the value that somebody's going to give or somebody's going to get as a result of this. So now it's your turn. Take some time and evaluate how much you've invested to learn the skill set that you have, and then evaluate your pricing. And do this every time you get some pushback. Anytime somebody pushes back on you. Now, I don't mean for you to then send them back and say, well, look, I've invested $75,000, blah, blah, blah. No, this is just for your own knowledge. It's not something that you need to share outside of, your own little private experience, or maybe with your accountability partner. Or if you really want to share it with somebody, share it with me. I'm happy to hear from you. I'm happy to hear what you've invested in gaining the expertise that you now have. If you just feel compelled to share it with somebody, don't share it with clients because it sounds like then you're justifying, and you don't need to justify your pricing. You just need to set your pricing. But for your own mindset, to keep your own mindset strong, take a look at what you've invested to learn the skill set that you have, and then look at your pricing and see, is it time to make some adjustments? Is it time to make some increases? Maybe there's something you want to decrease. That's fine too. But really take a look at what you're bringing to the table. All right. I hope that was helpful. I hope you enjoyed the story of the red-handled wrench. It's one of my favorites when I think about sales stories. And as we wrap up today, I would like to issue an invitation for you to join the Sales Maven Society. If you're not in there yet, we would love to have you. This is absolutely the best place for you to start igniting your sales. If you are committed to growing and honing your selling skills and bringing more revenue into your business, this is the place to be. You bring all of your questions, all of your concerns, all those things that are getting in the way of you really amplifying your revenue. And I'm going to provide the answers. I'm going to provide the guidance, and I provide the community of amazing people to offer you feedback, suggestions, trainings. So come join the Sales Maven Society by visiting salesmavensociety.com. And here's a special coupon code. Come for your first month and check it out and see if it's for you. If it's not for you, there's no long-term obligation. You can cancel at any time. It is a reoccurring monthly charge. So it's $97 a month. You can join right now for your first month using the code I'm going to give you for only $27. So I'm going to take $70 off your first month, and you can join using coupon code 27trial. All one word, the number 2, the number 7, and then TRIAL by going to salesmavensociety.com. We'd love to have you with us. Thank you so much for listening today. Good luck and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to Sales Maven. Visit us online at yoursalesmaven.com/maven for more resources to boost your confidence and skills.